Resourceful Designer, episode 167, Is Being a Designer Affecting Your Eyesight?
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now your host. He couldn't carry a tune if his life depended on it. Mark DeCote.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how our screens are affecting our eyes. I'm also going to share a resource of the week that, if you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you may be surprised in what I'm sharing. Before ending the show with a question from Adam about a dilemma he's facing with one of his clients. Now, what have I been up to lately? Well, this week I finished a website that was nice, got it launched, and everybody loves it. Always like when that happens. And I was hired by somebody to design a cover for their book, which is always fun. I haven't done a book in a little while, so it's a nice little challenge that I'm going to get under there. But I want to tell you about an interesting phone call I received this week. Earlier in the week, I received a phone call from a gentleman. I did not know him, and he asked me if I was the one who had created the website for such and such a company. I'm not going to name the company. And I told him that yes, that was me. I had designed it long time ago, back in the late 2000s, and they were still a current customer of mine. Well, it turns out this guy was newly hired by the company, and he said that one of his jobs was to take over some of the marketing and promotion of the company, including the website, and he wanted to discuss the possibilities of a new website with me. Now, this left me a little bit confused, but I decided to let him talk for a bit, and he started going on about what he wanted to see in a website and what sort of proposal I can do. But before he got too far, I stopped him and I says, I'm sorry, but I'm a little confused. I'm already in the process of building a new website for you guys. You see, I was hired by a marketing agency to create a new website. Now, this is the same marketing agency that I've been dealing with for years for this one particular client. In fact, I've never actually communicated directly with this client. I've always gone through the marketing agency. Now, technically, the client is my quote-unquote client because they are the ones that sign the contract. I send my invoice directly to the client, and the client pays me directly. So nowhere does the paper trail go through the marketing agency. But going back to when I originally designed the website, and even beyond that, before that, I've always dealt directly with the marketing agency. So I was a little taken aback, like wondering what was going on with this guy calling me, asking me about a website. And I told him, I says, are you familiar with this agency? And he says, oh yeah, we had a meeting earlier this week and we discussed all sorts of marketing for the business. And I asked, I says, well, did they mention that they were already getting me to design a website? And he says, no, they didn't. And I said, and the owner didn't tell you that he had signed a contract for a website with me? He says, no, he didn't. So anyways, it was just a very interesting conversation. Turns out that what this guy wants, his idea for a website is not at all what the proposal was done before. Now, just a little bit of backstory here. The website, I haven't worked on it in a couple of months. I signed this contract several months ago, but because the business is undergoing some renovations, they put the project on hold while they finish the renovations because they have to take some photography, some pictures around the place to put onto the website. So the project was put on hold, and we knew that was going to happen. So I haven't done any work on this website for a couple of months. But it was just funny that they had this marketing meeting, and neither the marketing agency nor the owner of the company mentioned to this new guy that there was already a website in progress. So anyways, he's supposed to have another meeting in this coming week with both the owner and the marketing agency, and he's going to discuss it with them. But what I'm curious is they signed a contract. They gave me a deposit. And if they come back with a completely different website that they want me to do, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to handle that as far as deposit, because my contract says the deposit's non-refundable if you cancel the contract. And even though it's going to be another website, it'll be a completely different idea than what they wanted to begin with. So anyways, I got to figure out how to do that. But that was a very interesting and strange conversation I had earlier this week. But enough about that. I want to share with you a resource that, as I mentioned in the intro, if you're a long-time listener of the podcast, you may find a little bit strange. And that's because you know how much I love the Divi theme. For years now, ever since Divi first came out, I've been using Divi. And it's been several years now since I've designed a website not using Divi. I have a few client sites that I did prior that I'll update and that, but everything I've done in the last few years has been using Divi. So you may find it strange that the resource I want to share with you this week is Elementor. Elementor is the direct competitor to Divi. Lots of resources online, articles, YouTube, whatever, podcasts. When they talk about page builders for WordPress, there's the two that come to mind. There's Elementor and there's Divi. There's actually a couple more, but those are usually the two top ones they mention. Now, I've always been curious about Elementor because I've heard when on some forums and some other discussions how it can do certain things that Divi can't. One of the main things is Elementor allows you to change the heading and the footer or design them differently, where Divi is very limited in what it can do with the header and footer. The rest of the website, you can do just about anything with Divi, but when it comes to the header or the footer, it's a little limiting in what it allows you to do, where Elementor isn't. So that was one of the bonuses that I always thought, I wish Divi had that, but it didn't. So after seeing a couple of more videos on YouTube and that, I decided to take a plunge and purchase a single site license of Elementor just to give it a try. So I did install it on a test site that I'm doing, or just test space, I guess, sandbox that I have, just to fool around. And although I haven't spent a lot of time with it, I am very impressed with what I've seen so far. Now, will it debunk Divi in my eyes? That'll be really tough. I can design a Divi website really quick. I know it. I've been using it for years, so I really know how to use it. But I was very impressed with the way Elementor handled and the things I was able to do with it. Just limited. Again, I haven't spent a lot of time with it. I plan on doing some more either on this weekend or later next week. I really want to dive in and see, because it would be nice to have another tool in my toolbox. It might not replace Divi, but there's nothing wrong with having another option, because maybe somebody will come to me with a website and I might decide that it would be easier to do that website with Elementor. So it's always nice to have extra tools in your toolbox. Now, you may be wondering, well, Mark, why are you sharing this as a resource of the week if you haven't fully tested it yet? Because normally I only share stuff that I'm familiar with. Well, the reason is first of all, I know Elementor is really good. I've heard the reviews, I've heard comments, and it's right up there. It's always ranked number 1 or number 2, depending on the article, with neck and neck with Divi. Some articles say Divi's better, some say Elementor is better. So just that knowledge tells me that it is a good page builder when it comes to WordPress. But the other reason I wanted to share it with you is because Elementor is actually on sale this week. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to purchase it. It's their 3rd birthday. They've been around for 3 years now. The program is 25% off. Now, that sale only goes on, I believe, till June 4th, which is Tuesday. I'm releasing this episode Monday morning, and the sale ends Tuesday night. So if you aren't listening to this episode in the first day or two that it's being released, or you've missed the sale, but I just wanted to let you know, in case you want to try out Elementor for yourself. I'm actually hoping to get onto it on the weekend and try some more, because as I said, I bought a single site license, but if I like it, I might decide to upgrade to either the 3-site license or maybe the ultimate package there, because it's all 25% off for this weekend. Now, I will be upfront with you and say that when I did sign up, or I did purchase it, they did give me an affiliate link to share. So I have an affiliate link at resourcefuldesigner.com/Elementor if you are interested and you want to give it a try. Or you can hold off and wait till the next time I say something, once I've given it a good go-round, really kick the tires on it to see what I think. But if you want to give it a try for yourself and purchase it for 25% off, if this is June 3rd or June 4th of 2019, you can get it for 25% off if you visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Elementor. So that's the main reason I wanted to share it this week, was just because of that sale. Otherwise, I would have held off till I tried it more. But I figured if you can get 25% off, why not? And now, is being a designer affecting your eyesight? As a designer, there's pretty much no escaping being in front of some sort of computer screen. If you're like me, if you divide up between the computer, the phone, television, all of that put together, you're probably spending more time throughout a day with your eyes staring at some sort of screen than you do actually sleeping at night. Face it, we've become slaves to our tech devices. But did you know that this constant exposure to one screen after another throughout the day can actually cause strain and even damage to your eyes? The problem is the ultraviolet blue UV light emitted by all of these devices. And although I read many articles and researchers are kind of at odds on whether or not blue light can cause permanent damage, they do agree that prolonged exposure does affect your eyes. I read something by a Dr. Ritesh Patel. He's an optometrist at the Ontario Association of Optometrists here in Canada. To paraphrase what he says, our eyes are sensitive to a narrow band of light frequencies called the visual light spectrum. Out of that spectrum, blue light has the shortest wavelength, and that short wavelength means that blue light also emits the most energy. Now, traditionally, ultraviolet blue light comes from the sun. It's why you've been hearing all your life to protect your eyes with UV protecting sunglasses. However, unless you're, one of those rappers that's trying to look so cool, or you're playing in some World Series of Poker championship, chances are you don't wear sunglasses indoors. And that could be a problem because all of these screens that we're staring into each day, they also emit the same UV blue light that the sun does that we've been told to protect against. And that's not taking into account things such as the LED lighting that now lots of people are installing in their homes or offices. They also put out the blue light. Now, one of the side effects of blue light is to suppress the sleep hormone melatonin. And what this does when you're suppressing the hormone is it causes an artificial feeling of wakefulness, I guess you can say, and this disrupts sleep patterns. And by doing this, it can also add strain on your eyes because you're not sleeping well, and overall just affect your life in general. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole frequency range thing, the whole wavelength of the blue light. That's not important here. But I do want to state, because of what this article says, that when they talk about blue light, it doesn't appear blue. Blue light is just the high end of the color spectrum. But on the devices that are putting it out, it doesn't appear blue. It's actually white light, but they call it blue light. So I just wanted to clear that up. The whole issue with your eyesight goes beyond just the blue light. Yes, some screens today have built-in filters to alter the light spectrum of your device. I know I could do it on my iPhone and my iPad, and it reduces the amount of blue light they put out. But it can't eliminate it altogether. It can just help it. It doesn't stop the fact, though, that you are staring at a screen, whether it's your phone, a tablet, or a computer. So how do these screens affect your eyes? For one thing, staring at these screens for hours and hours at a time does put a heavy strain on your eyes. So it's probably not a big surprise to you that staring at these screens can put your eye health in jeopardy. There is a study performed here in Canada that says a quarter of Canadians spend over 2 hours per day staring at their phones. Now, I know that my iPhone I have it set up to notify me of my screen time once per week. I forget what the feature is actually called, but I average in anywhere between 1 hour and 20 minutes and 1 hour and 30 minutes. That's where I stand. But they say one quarter of Canadians spend over 2 hours per day staring at their phones. And I'm sure if Canadians are doing it, other people around the world are the same. Now, researchers are linking exposure to blue light to macular degeneration, which is one of the leading causes of blindness around the world. Now, of course, they're talking about blue light that is taking into account the blue light that's coming from the sun and not necessarily confirming that there's a connection between screen time and blindness. So I want to make sure that I state that. The researchers are not saying that the screens can lead to macular degeneration and possibly blindness, but they do state that the blue light emitted by the devices is the same blue light that they are concerned about that's put out by the sun. So even though they're not putting the two and two together, it's still a scary thought that the same outside light that they're so worried about is being emitted by the same device that you hold in your hand every day. Now, a study done by Weill Cornell Medical College in New York State states that 93 of American adults spend 2 or more hours per day in front of some sort of screen, 61% spend 5 or more hours in front of a screen, and 30% spend more than 9 hours in front of a screen. Now, chances are, as a designer, you fall into that 30% mark. I know I do. I spend all day in front of my computer. When I'm not at my computer, I might glance at my phone. I said I have an hour or so plus time on my phone per day, according to what my phone's telling me. And then in the evenings, I'll sit down and I'll watch TV. So I know I'm spending more than 9 hours per day in front of a screen. And chances are, because you are a designer as well, whether you're a print designer or web designer, chances are you're spending just as much time in front of your computer. Now, are you concerned about that? Now, some other studies, I did a lot of reading for this one. Other studies say that between 50 and 90% of people who work at a computer screen all day experience symptoms of what doctors are calling computer vision syndrome, CVS. The doctors state that CVS is not a specific condition, but rather a term that they use to classify a multitude of problems caused by prolonged computer use. So it's things like blurred vision, double vision, dry, red eyes, eye irritations, headaches, neck and back pain. All of these things are all part of computer vision syndrome. Now, they also state that anybody can get this just by looking at a computer screen, but those people that already have some sort of existing vision problem, they're even higher risk of contracting or developing symptoms of computer vision syndrome. Now, all of these, blurred vision, double vision, dry red eyes, eye irritation, and all the rest, for the most part, they're just very annoying. But that's not all. They can lead to health issues. Not to mention that whenever you experience any of this stuff and when your eyes are bothering you, your performance drops. You slow down what you're doing. You actually become less creative, which is definitely not good for a designer. So what's affecting your eyes can actually affect your ability to do your job. Now, the smartphones are just as bad as a computer screen. A study out of the United States predicts that 2 out of every 3 Americans will experience eye strain caused by excessive use of their phones. And again, if this study is working in the US, I'm sure here in Canada, in Europe, in Australia, wherever, it would be similar numbers. 2 out of every 3 people will experience eye strain caused by excessive use of their phone. That's something to be concerned about. But there are steps you can take to drastically reduce your risk of eye problems in the future. Did you know that until the 1960s, the majority of the world's population was farsighted? That means they can see very well at a distance. But since the 60s, the tables have shifted on that, and now there are more nearsighted people than people with farsighted vision. Now think about that. This is a study from before the 60s and after the 60s. Well, what happened in that period? Wasn't the television invented towards the end of the 50s and in the 60s but started to become more popular in homes? Do you think it's a coincidence that ever since televisions, which later became computer monitors and now smartphones, ever since the invention of some sort of screen device to look at, that the shift from farsightedness to nearsightedness has changed throughout the world? I remember back when I was in grade school, this is in the 1970s, I was in grade school. There were maybe, 2, possibly 3 kids out of the hundreds of kids in my entire school who wore glasses. I remember those kids being made fun of because they were so rare, people calling them four eyes and all sorts of stuff, which nowadays you think, wow, that was so mean, the way we were treating our friends and that. But that's because they were so far and few between. Nowadays, it's hard to walk into any classroom anywhere in the world and not see at least one child, and usually more than one child, with some sort of vision problem. Just walk around anywhere on the street and you'll see evidence everywhere of how people's eyesight is getting worse. And as a designer, someone who relies on your vision to make a living, somebody who is staring at a screen, designing, pushing pixels all day long, you should be taking precautions to protect yourself. But what can you do? Well, the first thing you need to do is give your eyes a regular break. Have you ever heard of the 20-20-20 rule when it comes to your eyesight? Many doctors adhere to this. And what it stands for is every 20 minutes, you should look away from whatever screen you're looking at and spend 20 seconds looking at something that is at least 20 feet away. That's the 20-20-20. Every 20 minutes, spend 20 seconds looking at something that's at least 20 feet away. So that's probably the simplest of preventions that you can take. So every 20 minutes as you're designing, turn. I have a window next to me. I can turn and look out the window, and everything out there is more than 20 feet away. Maybe you might not have a window. Turn and look down your hallway. Look across the room. Find something you can do. Just focus your eyes on something that is over 20 feet away. Wait about 20 seconds and then get back to work. Just that little thing alone can help your eyes readjust and strengthen them, that they're not constantly looking at the screen. Now, something else you can try is blue UV light filtering glasses. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about here, have a look at the link resourcefuldesigner.com/blue glasses, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I talked about my own computer glasses a while back on the podcast when I first got them. My optometrist prescribed a special pair of glasses for me that they are prescription and they are tuned, or I don't know what the proper terminology is, but they're adjusted for the exact distance that I sit from my computer. I had to tell him exactly how far my eyes are from my computer normally, like average it out when I'm sitting in front of my computer, exactly how far I am. And they gave me a pair of glasses, prescription glasses, that were geared for my eyesight at that exact distance so that they're perfect for me looking at the computer screen. But these glasses are also coated with a special blue UV light filtering effect or whatever, I don't know if it's an effect or whatever, whenever they're coated. And these help my eyes. They help prevent all this eye strain and stuff like that. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have to do the 20-20-20. It just means that I have that extra protection of the blue light filter on my glasses to help protect my eyes. Now, if you don't normally wear corrective glasses like I do, then you can still get special non-prescription glasses. Glasses that just have a regular glass, but that glass is coated with a blue UV light filter on them. My wife's stepbrother and his family recently came down. They don't live around here. We see them maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And they came down for a visit a couple of weekends ago. And I noticed that their kids, who are 9 and 11, I believe, they would often come and they would take turns. They want to play on the iPad. They didn't want to hang out with us adults. They wanted to be in the other room on the iPad. But my brother-in-law has a policy, and I thought this was pretty cool. Each of the kids has a special pair of glasses that if they want to play with the iPad, they have to be wearing those glasses. Now, I remember my niece, she didn't really care. She thought it was cool, but my nephew was, I don't want to put the glasses on. And his dad said, those are the rules. If you want to play with the iPad, you have to wear the glasses. And if he sees him taking the glasses off, then the iPad goes away. And when I asked him about it, he said that he is concerned about all of the studies that he sees. He is a teacher as well, and he's noticed that most of his students over the years, their eyesight's getting worse, and he's trying to protect his kids from that same thing. So anytime that they are in front of the computer, in front of the TV, in front of anything, they put on these glasses. And they don't really affect anything. Now, I will state that if you do color correcting, if your photography or anything, or your color, it has to be very, very precise. You may not want to wear these glasses while you're adjusting colors. I don't. I usually take them off because even though they're clear, I do find just an ever slight shift in the color spectrum of what I see. For most things, it doesn't make a difference. But if I'm actually color adjusting something on screen, then I'll just take the glasses off, do the color adjustment, then put the glasses back on. So anyways, if you want to know more about these, if you don't need a prescription, if you do need a prescription, talk to your optometrist or wherever you get your glasses. But if you don't wear prescription glasses, check out resourcefuldesigner.com/blue glasses to see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, another thing you can do to help your eyes is to have a humidifier in or near your office. Working all day long in a dry space where there's dry air is really, really bad for your eyes. So a humidifier can help that. It can help add humidity in the air, which will help with your eyes. And if need be, use some artificial tears, those drops that you put into your eyes. They can help moisturize them. If you do use eye drops, avoid the ones that say, get the red out or that sort of thing. Because yes, they work great for moisturizing your eyes and they are a quick fix to get the red out of your eyes. But I don't know if you know this, but those things, they help you on the spot there. But then once you stop using them, your eyes become even more red than they were before you started using them. So only use the get the red out ones if you're actually going out somewhere and you need to get rid of the red eyes. Otherwise, just regular artificial tears is what you should be using if you have a problem. I know people with contacts. My wife wears contact lenses, and she has that often where her eyes will feel dry, especially if she's in a dry place or if there's like a ceiling fan or something and there's a little bit of a breeze, her eyes will dry up. I don't experience that. I don't wear contacts, but I know people that do. Sometimes they'll experience that. So carry a little bottle of these artificial tears to help you out. Now, as far as your screens go, you can always turn down the brightness on your screens. Now, I don't like doing this on my computer. I have it set. I have my computer calibrated, so it's at a constant brightness. But I can tell you that my phone and my iPad are almost at the lowest brightness they can go. Most people have the brightness set on their device much, much higher than necessary. So reducing the brightness on this will make it much easier on your eyes. Plus, it also has the added benefit of by reducing the brightness, you conserve battery life, so your phone or your tablet will last much longer. Now, another thing you can do is increase text size. If you find yourself squinting as you're reading your phone or your computer, that's a sign that you're putting strain on your eyes. So try to make the default font larger on your phone. I've done that on my phone. I know that my eyesight isn't as good as it can be. So when I got my phone, I went in and I increased the text size, the default text size on everything. So it makes it easier for me to read. You can also make it bolder, but I didn't like it bold. But I did make it larger than the default for the phone. Now, one thing that I love doing is whenever I'm browsing through the internet, whether I'm using Chrome or Safari or Firefox or whatever, any of these browsers, or I should say all of these browsers, you can go on a Mac Command plus, and I presume on Windows machine it would be Control plus. And by doing that, it will increase the font size in the browser window, so making it easier to read. I do that all the time. I'll get onto, say, some news site or some place that has a blog or an article, and I find the text really small. I just hit Command plus plus plus, get the size bigger, and it makes it much easier on my eyes. I don't have to strain as I'm reading. Now, another thing is try to position your computer screen so that it's at least at arm lengths away or more. This includes if you have a laptop, try to make sure it's far enough away from you so that you're not right on top of it, staring right directly into it. This will help avoid excessive strain. You also want to place your screen so that your eyes are looking down at it. You don't want to be looking up towards your screen. You should be looking down at it. Actually, optimally or ergonomically, your eyes should be even with the top edge of your monitor and looking downward. That's the best position to have your monitor. I know I talked about that back in episode 118 of the podcast, all about minimizing back and neck strain from long days designing and how your whole setup should be set up. So your eyes should be at the top edge of your monitor looking down. And this may sound silly, but try to remember to blink. Did you know that the average person blinks about 15 to 20 times per minute? But when you're looking at a computer monitor or any sort of screen, that number drops by half. It's amazing to think that just the fact of staring at some sort of lit up screen like that prevents your eyes from blinking as much as they should. So try to be conscious. I know that's something we don't normally think about. It sounds kind of crazy, but try to think that, I should be blinking to help moisten my eyes, to keep them lubricated and to keep them healthy. All of this stuff that I've talked about, the blue light and the different protections you can do, all of this is, I guess, a public service announcement, letting you know that you need, as a designer, to protect your eyes. You are a designer because you love the creativity. You love the challenge that it brings in every project you do. Every day you work on this stuff and you enjoy it, or at least I hope you enjoy it. But that passion could be hurting your eyes. So don't let CVS, computer vision syndrome, affect your ability to do your job to the fullest. Do whatever you can, whether it's getting the protective glasses, following the 20-20-20 rule, remembering to blink, or whatever you do. You want to be doing this for a very, very long time. And if you want to do that, you need to take care of yourself, especially your eyesight. Now, I would love to know if you wear protective glasses when you work at your computer. Do your regular glasses have a special blue UV light protection filter on them? Or do you wear just standard non-prescription blue UV light protection? Let me know. Visit resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 167 and leave a comment telling me how you protect your eyes. And now this week's question of the week. oh, it feels like a while since I've had a question. For the last series I did on client onboarding and offboarding, I didn't bother with the questions. But this week I have one from Adam. And he says, I'd like to ask for some advice in regarding a dilemma I found myself in recently. I have a client I acquired when I bought out a client portfolio from another web designer who decided to close up shop. This client's site is ugly and uses poor design technique. I met with the client a few weeks ago to discuss designing a new website for them. The meeting was not predicated on the client's recognition of any problem with their site, but rather because I informed them of the issues with their site. They understood the gravity of the problem and agreed to consider a new website for their next year budget. Then we talked about their logo. Oh boy, this logo is atrocious, and I'm quite certain that it was actually designed in Word or PowerPoint. I quickly learned that there is some personal stake in the design by the organization's director, and that she actually dictated the design to a designer who obliged her when designing it. The logo is not only ugly, but it doesn't really represent the business. The director gave me her explanation of what the logo means, but admitted that her target audience likely did not understand its meaning. My suggestion of redesigning it was quickly met with a loud and clear off limits. I've been sitting on this proposal for a few weeks because I'm simply not comfortable with designing a new website that incorporates that hideous logo, at least not in its current state. I'm trying to set myself apart from my competitors as a premium web design, hosting, and maintenance service. I'm afraid that to use this logo on my website design does not reflect well on my business. Am I wrong to feel that way? I'm tempted to tell the client that I can't design a website for them if they want to continue to use that logo, but I'm not sure that's really reasonable. It feels like holding them for some sort of ransom just to get more design work. I'm even considering offering the client to at least clean up the current logo design so that it doesn't look quite so bad. I've even considered offering to do it at half my normal rate because it seems silly to kick an existing client to the curb and give up several $1,000 website design over a few $100 work on their logo. How would you handle this circumstance? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Well, thank you very much for the question, Adam. And I think we've all, or maybe not all, but many of us have been in a similar situation where we've had to use something that was subpar design. And my take on it is just go ahead and do it. If you're hired to design a website, the logo is not, I was going to say the logo is not part of the website. Yes, the logo is on the website, but the logo design project is not the web design project. You can design the best website you can and use the crappy logo, and it will not reflect bad on you because you're using what was given to you. Now, I will tell you something though. I've been in a situation like this before where I was given let's call it a subpar logo and asked to design a website. And when I designed a really, really nice website, as soon as the client saw it, because we had already discussed the logo, similar to what you said, and the client didn't want their logo touched. But once they saw the website and they saw their quote unquote crappy logo on this beautiful website, they immediately hired me to redesign their logo. Now, I'm not saying that would happen to you, but sometimes showing it in different context. If this client didn't have her logo on this beautifully designed stuff before, maybe not the website, but even her business card and stuff, a lot of times if it's a crappy logo, the rest of the design is crappy as well. But if you put a crappy logo on a well-designed piece, the logo stands out that much more. And that might be all that you need in order to get her to agree to a logo design. Now, I would not offer to redo it at a reduced rate. There's no reason to do that. That's you putting some pressure on her because you feel that her logo isn't up to par. She has to come to that conclusion that she wants the logo design on herself. So don't offer it there. But offering to clean it up, that's just something, I normally do that by default. If I'm given a crappy logo and I can clean it up a little bit, I'll just include some extra time in my proposal in order to do that. Whether it's sometimes somebody gives me a bitmap logo, I'll take the time to vectorize it, clean it up so that at least it doesn't look all jagged and that sort of thing. But remember that you are a web design, web hosting, and web maintenance service. You're not necessarily a logo design service, or at least that's the way I'm reading this. I'm not saying you can't design logos, but you seem to want to promote yourself as a web business. And that means designing websites. So make the website as good as you can and incorporate that logo. Hopefully she'll see it and decide, no, we need to change this logo right away now. The other thing is you can always design the website and not include it in your portfolio. You don't have to showcase it. If somebody asks you to see samples, just don't show them that sample if you really don't like it. But that's not a reason not to take on the work. Over my 30 years designing, there's lots of time where I ended up designing stuff with subpar material. I've even designed some subpar material. I remember sharing with you on the podcast before how when I was first starting out, I ended up designing a logo for this carpenter, and it was the stupidest logo ever, but it's exactly what he wanted. And I wasn't experienced enough at the time to put my foot down and say, no, this isn't right. And I won't go into the whole story, but I know the one part of the logo was he wanted a fish in it. And the only reason he wanted a fish on it was because he had taken his 10-year-old son fishing the previous weekend, and his son loved fishing. And this guy thought, oh, it would be so cute. His son would be so thrilled to see a fish in his father's logo. And I obliged. Sometimes you just got to do what the client asks you to do. But in this case, for you, Adam, I would say just go ahead, design the website with the logo. You can even mention to her how maybe you can see that the logo is a little outdated and can use some revision or some updating with the logo in order to make it really stand out well with the website, but otherwise use what she gave you. So I hope that answers your question. Now, I do apologize. I know that by this time, because the last few weeks I haven't answered questions and I answer them in the order they come in. This question's actually come in, I believe it was submitted back in March. So by this time, you've probably already made your decision, Adam, but I thought I'd answer the question anyways, because other people may find themselves in a similar situation. Now, let me know. Maybe you haven't yet. You said that this was set up for their budget for the following year, so maybe you haven't sent your proposal yet. Let me know how things turned out. I would love to hear and know, get a follow-up to this and see how it worked out for you. But I wanted to share this in case anybody else listening has a similar situation where they're asked to do some designs with some subpar material. I know I've done it with posters where I had to design an event poster for something coming up, and the logo or an image to put on the poster was like, ugh, what an ugly image. So we all get there at some point in our careers. Anyways, thank you very much for the question. Now, I would love to answer your question on a future episode of the podcast. If you have one for me, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and submit your question. So that's it for the episode. Remember, if you do want to get Elementor or give it a try, even if it's just for a single site, you can get it now for the first 2 days. Today, Monday, that this episode comes out, or Tuesday, June 4th. It is 25% off if you use resourcefuldesigner.com/Elementor. So don't forget to do that if that is something that interests you. And if you want to know more about the blue UV protection glasses, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/blue glasses and see exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you very much for tuning in. I always appreciate you and your willingness to spend a little bit of time with me discussing our graphic design businesses. Until next time, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best and reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.